Yeah, I know. That's why.
There's only one, isn't there?
It's a bit overwhelming. We'll see how many people.
Well, I can see how there's trees. I wonder where they start Yeah. Good
With the creek vest. And there's a little flag.
I know my grandma
I like the lighthouse too.
We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe people, who consist of the people of the Three Fires, known as the Ojibwe, the Odawa, and the Potawatomi nations, on whose traditional territories we gather, and whose ancestors signed treaties with our ancestors. We also recognize the Métis and the Inuit, whose ancestors shared this land and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on this land and live in peace and friendship with all its diverse peoples.
Attention!
As we that are left grow old, age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
El Malai Rachamim, God full of compassion, dwelling on high, grant perfect rest under the wings of the Shekinah, among the holy and pure, who shine as the light of the firmament, to the souls of all our beloved kin, whom we recall with blessing on this day. Master of compassion, gather them forever in the shelter of your wings. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life. The eternal is their inheritance. May they rest in peace, and let us say, Amen.
Right. Stand back. East. Stand easy.
Do you have things?
In Flanders fields. In Flanders fields, where the poppies blow, between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky, the larks still bravely singing fly. Scars heard amid the guns below. We are the dead, short days ago. We lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow. Loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from falling hands we throw. The torch be yours to hold it high. If you break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
A reading from Micah chapter 4, verses 1 to 4. In the days to come, the mountain of the Lord's temple shall be established at the highest of the mountains, and shall be raised up above the hills. People shall stream to it, and many nations shall come and say, Come, let us go to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, and we may walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth instruction, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. He shall judge between many peoples and arbitrate between strong nations far away. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. But they shall all sit under their own vines and under their own fig trees, and no one shall make them afraid. For the mouth of the Lord of hosts has spoken. Late in the afternoon of November 5th, 1941, a German Navy heavy cruiser, the Admiral Scheer, attacked the Halifax to England convoy HX-84. The convoy was escorted by a number of small ships, the largest of which was an armed merchant cruiser, the HMS Jervis Bay. The Jervis Bay was no warship. At the outbreak of the war, she had been equipped with 8 naval cannon dating from the 1890s. She had a crew of 255 drawn from both naval and civilian ranks. The Admiral Scheer was a state-of-the-art ship of the line, Her 6 main guns had a reach of 22 miles. She was equipped with a secret radar targeting system. Her crew numbered over 1,000. At about 4 p.m., the Jervis Bay sighted the Admiral Scheer and sent out a general warning to the convoy, ordering the ships to scatter. Captain Fogarty Fegan of the Jervis Bay then turned his ship toward the German raider, dropped smoke floats to obscure the convoy, and opened fire. All of the Jervis Bay's shells fell short. The Admiral Scheer responded in kind. With 5 salvos of her massive guns, the Admiral Scheer crippled the Jervis Bay, destroying her control rooms, severing electrical systems, and killed the ship's captain and officers. The encounter took less than 30 minutes. The crew was ordered to abandon ship. By ordering the convoy to scatter and turning toward the German ship, Captain Fegan gave the convoy he was protecting valuable time to escape. Distracted, the Admiral Scheer's guns spared most of the convoy, and by the time they had finished with the Jervis Bay, the convoy had largely disappeared. 33 of the 38 ships survived and completed the journey to England. Captain Fegan was awarded the Victoria Cross, the UK's highest decoration for valor. The citation in the London Gazette said, "In honored memory of Captain E.S. Fogarty Fegan, officers and men of the HMS Jervis Bay, who gave their lives in gallant action against overwhelming odds with the German raider on the North Atlantic, November 5th, 1940, in order that 36 ships under their care might be saved." The actual citation for the Victoria Cross reads in part, "For valor in challenging hopeless odds and giving his life to save the many ships it was his duty to protect." A member of the crew of the HMS Jervis Bay was stoker A.M. Jimmy Johnson, an experienced Great Lakes sailor from Owen Sound. He had enlisted in the Royal Canadian Naval Reserve. His family lived here in Owen Sound. He survived the sinking of the Jervis Bay, but succumbed to the cold waters of the North Atlantic. His was the first combat casualty connected with this city. And as can be imagined, the Johnson family and the city were devastated. By the spring of 1941, the city had decided to dedicate a park across the street from the cenotaph for the gallantry, valor, and sacrifice of the Jervis Bay and in memory of Jimmy Johnson. The HMS Jervis Bay Park is now a part of Owen Sound's history and a reminder of the risks taken by those who take to the sea at any time, but especially in war. And that is why Owen Sound has a memorial park named for a ship of the Royal Navy. Let's remember the words of the Navy hymn. "Eternal Father, strong to save, whose arm hath bound the restless wave, who bids the mighty ocean deep its own appointed limits keep. O hear us when we cry to thee for those in peril on the sea." We will always remember them.
Heavenly Father, on this solemn day, we gather in gratitude for the bravery and sacrifices of those men and women who have served our country with unwavering courage and dedication. We remember the lives lost, the struggles endured, and the courage displayed in the face of adversity. We remember those who returned carrying the weight of their experiences. We thank you for the freedoms we enjoy today, made possible by their dedication, commitment, and sacrifice. May we honor their memory by cherishing peace and working towards a better future for all. We ask for your blessing on all veterans and their families. Grant them strength, healing, and peace. In solemn remembrance, we hold in our hearts those who have fallen, and those who continue to serve. As we pause to reflect, may we be inspired to promote understanding and compassion, ensuring that legacy lives on in our hearts and actions. Amen.
We shall now commence the laying of the wreaths. The Government of Canada, placed by Lieutenant Colonel retired Phil Nicholson, assisted by C4 Zone Commander Rob Bouchard. Memorial Silver Cross in recognition of mothers who have lost children in military service of Canada. Placed by Mary Martina, Orlando Martina, assisted by John Parola. Victoria Cross recipients, Billy Bishop, Tommy Holmes, and David Curry, placed by Fred McKay, assisted by Robert Warrilow. World War I, placed by Brian Fraser, assisted by Brad Fraser. World War II, placed by Sisters Dawn Minard and Kim Hobbs, assisted by veteran Paul Thompson. Merchant Navy, placed by Johnny Johnson, assisted by veteran Barry Jack. Korea War, placed by Branch 6 Immediate Past President Patty Sargent Gibson, assisted by Julie Stevens Benson. United Nations, placed by retired RSM 2nd Battalion Canadian Light Infantry Lawrence Surridge, assisted by retired Corporal 2nd Princess Pat CLI John Parola. Come over the top, right over the forecastle. NATO, placed by past President Harry Hutchinson, assisted by Beth Hutchinson. Afghanistan, placed by retired Corporal John Perula, assisted by John Weirin. In honor of serving members of Grey and Simcoe Foresters, placed by Honorary Colonel Jones, assisted by Warrant Officer Donaldson. Honoring the 4th Canadian Division Training Centre in Meaford, placed by Pamela English, assisted by Tina Catley. RCMP, placed by Barry Jack, assisted by Liz Wilkie. Province of Ontario, placed by Rwanda veteran Frank Harrison, assisted by Paul Thompson, veteran. City of Owen Sound, placed by Mayor Ian Murray, assisted by students from Ecole Dominique Wesley, Ormsby, Greenslead, and Max Rikelnos. County of Grey, placed by Deputy Mayor Scott Craig. And assisted by Bob Griffiths. Georgian Bluffs, placed by Mayor Sue Carton, assisted by Linda Belanger. Veteran Affairs Canada, placed by Veteran Service Officer Barry Jack, assisted by Bob Barlow. Operational Stress Injury Social Support, placed by Mary Maha, assisted by Paul Thompson, veteran.
It's numbered. 3 up at the top. Oh.
Military Family Resource Center, placed by Executive Director Pamela English, assisted by Tina Catley. Canadian Freedom Riders, placed by Warrant Officer Retired Mike Boudreau, assisted by Roger Weirin. the War Amps Operation Legacy, placed by 10-year-old grade 5 Notre Dame student Tessa Smith and mother Corinne Smith, assisted by retired Corporal John Pirola. The Royal Canadian Legion Branch 6 and Branch 6 Ladies Auxiliary, placed by Branch 6 President Ed Yates and LA President Irene Surridge. Prior to the service, the following families had wreaths placed in remembrance. In memory of Quartermaster Sergeant George Samuel Cameron, July 1940 to November 1945, by Rob, Kathy, and Jim. In memory of Tony Panichetti, by the Panichetti family. In memory of Sergeant Charles Fisher and his father, Sergeant Henry Fisher, World War I, by the Fisher family. In memory of Sam Smart Sr., by Fran Zimmerman and his loving family. In memory of veteran Ab Walker and his wife May Walker, by Alf and Bea Walker. In memory of Major Frank Barnett Hewitt, World War I and World War II, by Gillian and Les and family. In memory of Private Samuel Farrar, by his loving family. Never forgotten, always loved, Corporal Robert Thomas Mitchell, by his loving parents, Carol and Bob Mitchell and family. In memory of brothers William Allen Bishop, Francis Howard Bishop, and their cousin, Lieutenant Colonel Reginald Worth Bishop, all World War I, by Maggie Bishop, Fred McKay and family, and Jean Ann Sebastian. In memory of Leslie Armstrong, Army 147 Grey Overseas Battalion, by the Ardell Armstrong family. In memory of Kerwood Armstrong, World War II, RCAF 424 Tiger Squadron, by the Ardell Armstrong family. In memory of Douglas Daniel Mahar of the Merchant Navy, by the Mahar family. In memory of William H. Bill Harrison, by the Harrison family. In memory of W.H. and Mabel French, World War I, and Robert Carson, World War II, by Margaret Harrison. In memory of Norman James Gibbons, Jr., Mike Gibbons, and family. In memory of Gord Fair, 1st Ambulance Division, Korea, by the Fair family. In memory of veteran Jack Sargent, MN, and wife Sally Sargent, by the Sargent family. In memory of Lieutenant Colonel James Graham England and Cynthia M. England, by Brent and Jennifer England. In memory of Private E.J. Billings, RCAMC, by Annette Billings, Slade, Ed Yates, and their families. In loving memory of the Yates brothers, Ron, Cliff, Ken, Tom, and George, by the Yates family. In memory of Bill McKay, from Gladys Panichetti and family. In memory of our grandfather, Frederick Heisman, World War I, our father, William Heisman, World War II, and the Heisman children. Excuse me, from the Heisman children.
There's one more wreath that has to be laid, so after you finish reading.
Does that have to be laid? Okay, all right. In memory of Private Trooper Robert Turner and Bill Cobbledick, gone but not forgotten by Kath Cole, Canadian veteran Freedom Riders. In memory of Private Garfield Price, World War II, 1943, RCASC, Cedric, by daughter Jane Price. Prior to the service, wreaths were laid at the Greenwood Cemetery in memory of the men and women who served in World Wars I and II. We still have one wreath to be laid. It's for the Wekawadong Reconciliation Garden Committee. That ends the wreath laying for today. Excuse me, I missed a page here. In memory of World War II veteran Corporal Leonard Button and grandson Bruce Button, Jr., by the Button family. In memory of Colonel W.F. Bill Granger and all veterans by the Granger family. In memory of Flight Officer Clarence R. Long, 15th Squadron, by the Barber family. In memory of Ben, Jiggs, Hugh, and Bert Weber, all of the Weber family. In memory of World War II veterans Keith Whalen and Bill Madonna, by Larry Whalen. In memory of Fred Waller and Barry Waller, Tom Waller, Sharon Waller McGregor. In memory of William O. Fraser from the Fraser and Livingstone family. In memory of grandparents, World War I veterans Harry A. Fraser and Albert R. Wooten from Brian, Brad, and Lisa Fraser. In memory of Gunner Edwin Ashley, 17th Field Artillery, 5th Division, Canadian Army, proudly by son Brian and daughter Louise and their family. In memory of George, June, and Tim Belanger, by Linda Belanger. In loving memory of Private Earl Ross Wardell, from Judith D. Simmons. In memory of Ivan Griffith, RCSC, and Sergeant Ken Griffith, RCAF, from Bob and Carol Griffith. In memory of Private Trooper Robert Turner and Bill Cobbledick, gone but not forgotten, by Kathy Cole, Canadian veteran Freedom Riders. Got the pages mixed up. It's over then.
When you leave here, remember. Remember and give thanks for the men and women who have sacrificed their lives that we might be present here this day. Remember and never forget. Go in peace.
Pray. Attention.
This is the Carr family lot at Woodland Cemetery. And this plaque down here is in memory of a member of their family, Charles Clifton Carr, who died in the Second Battle of Ypres in the First World War. Now, Charles Clifton Carr was also a London Central High School student. He graduated there. And when he enlisted in the war, he was a private in the 3rd Battalion of the Canadian Infantry. What is notable about the 3rd Battalion is that it was in line in April of 1915 during what is known as the Second Battle of Ypres, because what happened there was the first gas attack of the war took place. Picture in your mind a huge cloud coming across no man's land, and everybody is in their trenches and they're wondering what is happening. It hits the French lines. The French line folds, and then the Canadians are not as direct. But what happened is the Canadians were left on the field by themselves and became the point of the attack. Charles Clifton Carr, somewhere in that process, was wounded. And he had to have been in an area that was overrun by the Germans because he was taken prisoner. And he was taken to actually a hospital in Germany. And that is where he passed away from his wounds on May 2nd, 1915. And he is the only individual on this tour that we're aware of that actually died as a prisoner of war in Germany in the First World War. And he was 21 years old when he passed away. This is the memorial to John Alistair McGregor of the McGregor family, which was a farming family in Delaware, Ontario. He enlisted in the First World War. He was 18 years old, and that was in September of 1915 with the 3rd Battalion Canadian Infantry. Where the story of John McGregor and his death becomes interesting is given to the fact that he was killed in what was known as a trench raid. The Canadians were very good at this. It was used to take Canadians from the trenches on the Canadian side over across no man's land into the German side. So they would go to do that, and its purpose was to terrorize, take prisoners. And the size of the trench raids went anywhere from 8 men up to a battalion of 1,000 men. Well, McGregor was killed in a battalion-size trench raid. And the only reason why they know that he was killed is because he never came back. And so he was presumed dead. And that was on December 9th, 1916, and he was 19 years old. But when you talk about someone that dies in a trench raid, you should say something about the missing Canadian soldiers that died in France. And any soldier that has no known grave, his name is put on the Vimy Memorial at Vimy Ridge. There are 11,168 names of Canadian soldiers that are memorialized on the Vimy Ridge. And John Alistair McGregor was one of them. This is the Kent family monument here at Woodland Cemetery, and this inscription is in honor of their son, Victor John Kent, who died in the First World War. Now, Victor John Kent was a major in the 13th Brigade Canadian Field Artillery, and he was educated at the Royal Military College of Canada. He worked as a civil engineer before the war, and he enlisted in March of 1916. Eventually, he was posted with the 13th Brigade. As an officer, he was always known for his bravery and for placing the needs of his men above his own. The war diary of the 13th Brigade states that he died of wounds received during an enemy bombardment on March 14th, 1918. And his final words, quoted back to his family by his men, were as such: "Don't worry about me. I'll be all right. I'm just going down to see that the men are all under cover." As he proceeded down the trench to check on his men, that's when he was hit by shrapnel, artillery fire. And as a result, it was a mortal wound, and he bled out, and he died that very same day, March 14th. After, he was buried at Vimy Ridge Cemetery with full military honors. And back home, Besides placing him on the stone here, his family memorialized him with a plaque at St. Paul's Cathedral in London, Ontario, and you can still see that plaque today. At the time of his death, Major John Victor Kent was only 33 years old. This is the last memorial on our World War I tour. And it is also one of the most interesting because this entire plaque is dedicated to Lieutenant Bartholomew Cottam, who was a Central London student. And he was one of 70 Central London students who died in the First World War. In 1915, he enlisted, and he joined the 91st Battalion. It was also known as the Elgins. When the regiment shipped over to England, he stayed with family friends, the Minute family, and he fell madly in love with their daughter, Winifred. So much so that they were betrothed to be married. And the banns were read in church, and that he would marry her on his first leave back from the front. So on December 1st, Cottam, before going home to get married, is asked to do one last patrol. And he's sent out to scout on what they call a snatch raid. And that means they went over to the enemy trenches, they captured a German soldier, they brought him back for information. So being a good officer, he went out ahead to scout the position in front of his men. And during that time that he was out, the enemy caught some kind of semblance of him being out there. And the first thing they do is they fire up flares, and the flares expose the person. Cottam was caught out in the open. They turned the machine guns on him. They turned the artillery on him. He didn't have a chance. He did not get back. But by going out alone, he saved his men's lives. The story of his death was placed here by his family, and there's a lot here to read, but if you ever come up to the cemetery, try to read it, because it's a very interesting story. So, at the same time that Cottam dies over in the front, the Minute family is waiting for him to come back so that they could marry her daughter. But instead of him walking in the door to be with her and to marry her and have a life together, they received the news that Bartholomew Cottam is missing in action and that he is presumed dead. As his body was never found, his name is on the Vimy Memorial, and when he died, Bartholomew Cottam was only 21 years old.